Hello and welcome back to the SMP and the series and EXP and EXP and EXP and EXP and yeah, okay, this is a bit scuffed. But yes, welcome back to the SMP and another episode. You find me from inside my brand new liver, which I'm going to show you in a second, but I have to be very careful because I've had to re-record this intro because I was messing around with the compressor and the EQ and I sounded awful. So there may be some parts of this entire episode where I sound even worse and parts where it's okay. So I've already done majority of the work for this episode. Bear with me. Let's go take a look, shall we? And before we get into all that, I've forgotten once again to do a segment for asking you to subscribe and like and leave comments, you know, all the nice stuff. So this week's comment prompt, let's say, what is your favourite farm in Minecraft? Mine is the Chromos by quite a long shot. I absolutely love the bone meal farm. Yeah, also, just like last week, I'll say again, you don't actually have to do any of those things, but I appreciate when you do. Right, back to the video. So yeah, this week we are going to have two major projects, and I'm hoping I can get them both done in time. If not, then the one's going to take a backseat. The one that will take the backseat is the farm I'm going to build. And what's not going to take a backseat is my house, which I'll be building over there. But first and foremost, let's have a look at our liver, shall we? There you go. There's the liver from the outside with a nice little liver window, which is very accurate to the human body because all livers have a very nice brown window, obviously, that the gremlins can see out of. Promise you. That is actually what happens. Anyway, over to the build site. So, just over here, I've cleared out this little bit of land and started a little bit of terraforming. I may end up pulling this back further, depending on how much space we actually need. But the idea is a little farmhouse cottage type thing. And I've decided the main colour of the bricks is going to be in this lighter white tone. The base is going to be darker, obviously. Any shadows, we've got these darker blocks. And then the accent is going to be this greeny, bluey, turquoisey, tealy, aquamarine. The roof is going to be mostly slate, so again, darker. We might have a few dark wood accents in there. I don't know if it's going to work because it's going to mostly be blackstone and deep slate. And then something that I absolutely can't get my head around, but Waxadoodle, who's very good at this kind of thing, assures me, yellow. You know, these are more going to be the kind of push your eye into the middle of the building kind of thing. So if you just got some flecks right in the corner, it's going to do wonders for the overall project. Now, I kind of wing it most of the time, so I'm genuinely looking forward to building this. I'm going to wing the shape and I'm going to wing the style, but I'm going to incorporate these colours and hopefully we come out with something nice. Alongside that, we're going to dig ourselves a big hole and start a creeper farm. Maybe a slime farm, depending if I find another slime. Because down in my chunk loader portal grid, there was a slime, which means in one of three, I think it could have got to, one of three chunks is a slime chunk. So I've separated them. I'm going to keep checking periodically and we'll see it. The creeper farm isn't going to be highly efficient. It's going to literally just be enough to feed into my firework factory thing over there, which I've decided I am going to do directly. But first and foremost, let's start with a little bit of a time-lapsey, montagey, buildy thing. So that's the house all built. I've done a fair bit more since the recording ending, but we'll go and look at it in a sec. I'm just building myself a little path here leading to over there, which I don't quite know how we're going to tie these two areas together, but we can work on that another time. Right, the house itself. There it is. What do we all think? Not too bad, is it? So, I was speaking to Wax about the building, and we did have the idea of putting a big bright yellow wall here, but the yellow was just a bit too much of a contrast, so we've put in birch with it melding, with it blending into the bone white, and the calcite in more of a alcove areas, so it's more subtle, more shaded. And then on top, if we look from here, we can see there is the light is coming from this side, and this is where it's hitting the building. So I haven't done too bad, I don't think, with the shading. Wax helped a fair bit, like I said, but I did this inside all by myself, and we've got ourselves a nice little tea room. It's lovely. Yeah, there isn't really a guy one in Minecraft, so this pickle is what I use to make tea. And we've got a nice little tree clipping area here, which is going to lead out into an area I still need to terraform. This whole area is going to be somewhat of a garden. I'm going to have a bunch of custom trees, and just generally this whole area is going to be looking a bit nicer. So that's one major thing that we've done this episode. I've also built that little bridge that I need to decorate, but I've run out of warped stem, so I can't build the actual bridge around it. And not to get sidetracked, we also have a great big gaping hole. That's probably not a great choice of words, but here we are. And this has been dug out so we can build our farm. Now this isn't going to be a high powered farm by any means, but we will need to go around and light up a bunch of caves, because if we look at the area, now I haven't put this in the most ideal space, but this is where I have to light the least amount of caves. And it's not really going to be an AFK farm. It's going to be more a farm that just runs in the background while we're working. So I'm not too fussed about great results. It only needs to power a very small firework factory, which is up here. Ow. I'm going to say up here, I mean this that we worked on last week. Which, how are we doing anyway? How are we doing? Not so bad, not so bad. We're all manual at the moment, but yeah, that'll be probably the week after this one's project. We'll be connecting that up and adding these and maybe a few other things, because my storage situation's getting a little bit out of hand. With that out of the way, I'm going to crack on with this, and then I'll catch up with you after. Now, if I stand directly here, we are everywhere within that farm is lit up. And this will be a slight AFK platform, more of a case of me just standing here and waiting around whenever I find myself doing something else, like I'm editing at the moment, which is why I'm perched up here. But the farm itself is producing a decent amount. Now you have to take into account I've also emptied my shulker chest in here, so I already had, what, about 9 stacks, I think? About 9 stacks already, so we're about to see how much we've got in that little tiny AFK session. Yeah. So let's see. It was about 3 stacks was where I was at before I put everything in. So we'll see. We also get that. So yeah. Overall, we've got another 4 stacks added. So it's doing roughly what I want it to do. While I'm in the area, it'll be loaded in a little bit, and while I'm not in the area, it won't be loaded in at all, so that's an irrelevant thing to say. Yeah, when I'm up in the AFK platform, Jesus Christ, just put me in the bin, I can't talk today. Yeah, while I'm on the AFK platform, we'll have perfect spawning areas, only hampered by the amount of bats the farm seems to produce, but it also does a decent enough job to end some of them. Now, up here, I have led the path up to the area where we're going to start building the garden, and I just want to add a few decorations of custom cherry trees. So that's what we're going to do now. I've already worked these out in a testing world, and they look decent. At least I think they do anyway. So you let me know what you think when they're built. Also, I should probably come up with a topic to talk about while doing this, rather than just, you know, running away, doing another segment of film stuff, and then catching back up with you after. I don't know. We'll think of something. Now, one thing that's been on everyone's mind recently, especially Minecraft-related minds, is the changes to carts and to redstone generally. Now, there's two schools of thoughts here. There's some people that are very much like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened, which, you know, I can get behind some of them, and others that are like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened, which they also have their merits. Now, when it comes to the rail cart systems and storage tech in general, there is good reason to be annoyed at the changes made. Like, it's going to break a good majority of the well-established rules and farms that are already built. So the annoyance is warranted. And it does bring up, though, a whole discussion around... best way to word this. A whole discussion around whether it brings a whole new level of experimentation. Now, I can understand it's like I say, it is breaking a lot of well-established farms and rules, but it also brings the chance for innovation and for just a new way of tackling the problems. That is if Mojang don't turn around and completely go back on half the changes that they've made, because these are experimental features. They are looking for feedback, so there's no point being aggressively kicking off about them. You know, it's at the end of the day, they need to make these balancing changes. They need to check things, because although Redstone has gotten a lot better over the years, it is still a bit of a buggy mess. And some of the things that work, we have workarounds because we've had to, whereas having it just work would be a much better standard of operation. So I can't complain too much, but at the same time, I'm also relatively new to it, so what do I know? You know, my opinion on the matter is minimal compared to people that have been doing it for absolutely years. But at the same time, these people also, they've been working with something that's functionally broken half the time for years. And I can't pass comment on how I feel about that. The only thing I can really say is, you know, give feedback where feedback's due. If you're not happy with it, explain why you're not happy with it, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. Is it? I don't know. I've just realised like how difficult this actually is to do on while recording. Like, I should really just focus on building the tree. I am trying. The carts, on the other hand, you know, they haven't given us the speed as default. They're not going to give us that ridiculous speed as default. Although it's fun to play around with, I do think it will ultimately be forgotten because it's a game rule and not just an as standard thing. So that aside, some of the way that carts work is massively broken now, which I do think is a shame and problematic. I would go to the ins and outs of it, but like I say, I'm relatively new to this and I can barely form a coherent sentence while doing this and talking anyway. So we're going to finish this tree up, move on to the next one, and maybe I can formulate my thoughts a little better. Unlikely, because that's just who I am. This isn't too bad though. It's okay. It's a bit more bushy than I was expecting it to be. A little less branchy compared to the one I had in my single player. But, you know, it's not too bad. Yeah, we'll build a second one. And then I think it's time to start wrapping this episode up. So I think overall my thoughts match that of the wider community, which is they're messing with Redstone, which is good. They need to make these changes, but I'm apprehensive about some of the things. The main thing that bothers me, which now that I've stopped building I can actually concentrate on, is the change to unstackable carts. Whoops, that's gravel. Yeah, I think the cart stacking is a very useful feature. Now, there are ways around it, it just means it's more cumbersome. So, I would like to be able to see that change reverted, maybe, and also it breaks piston bolts as well, which it's 50-50. Like, I like the fact you can place rails side by side and snap onto the rails, but it means you can have them side by side, no problem. Or do I want that over the fact you can move them very, very fast? Maybe not. It's my jury's still out on that, which one I prefer. But yeah, those are those two. Did have an idea for a few smaller ones, which are just very simple little things. Not that I can plonk them up. There we go. And there. Just like that. Not bad. I'm getting sidetracked again then. So yeah, like, generally speaking, they're messing with them. Good. Change is good. Will all the changes be good? No. Am I happy about all of them? No. But am I happy they're changing stuff? Yes. So, yeah. Oh, you also haven't seen my bridge, have you? Which, I'll show you now just before we wrap up. Yeah. I really enjoyed doing this. Because normally I'd use spruce and darkwood for like the change in tone, or oak and then spruce, etc. You can't do that with this warped one, so I'll just use the warped fungus instead to make it look like the water's hitting the area, which I think is neat and cool and fun. And that's the bridge. Yeah, we will be developing this area a little bit further, but this is where we're going to end the episode today. Next week we'll be focusing a little bit more on those auto crafters over there, so I can get my bamboo stuff in. And then behind here, probably won't be next week, but generally speaking, we are going to have this lead into a tree mountain, you know, where they farm tea, and that's the plan. Haven't quite thought through the ins and outs of it yet, but I do want, just over this hill here, having this whole area turned into like a tea tree farming mountain range. And that, as I said, is like that's the future plans anyway. First things first, we need to focus on those last few farms and putting the stomach in, and then tree mountains. So yeah, slight ramble aside, I'm glad you've all here and made it to the end. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Subscribe if you want to follow me on this journey, and I'll see you next week. Ta-ra a bit.